let's get into some John Wick.
Absolutely.
So when I asked you how do you want to come on the show and talk about a non-stylish, a non-Bond film that you really appreciate the style, you mentioned John Wick, the entire series. So perhaps just start with why John Wick?
Yeah. So for me, I didn't see the first John Wick film. You know, a few of my mates were saying, "You've got to see this." It was only when the second one came out, and a good friend of mine, sent me the clip of the tailoring scene of where he's going when he's in Rome. And for me, it was just like, okay, I'm hooked now. You know, forget about the bulletproof suits or anything like that. I've been fortunate to go to like Tom Ford and get measured up by very skilled Italian tailors, and the whole experience of him, like, would you like this suit for daytime or evening? Would you like? How would you like it tapered? How do you like you? And it was like, I can so relate to this. And then I just got into it in the sense that this is a person who, throughout, you know, second, third, and even first, they're totally inside this. You could say one suit, but it's always suits, and it's that kind of style, and then it delves into this kind of like this hidden world where everyone is so stylishly dressed, all involved in assassinations. It sounds so crazy. There's a bit of a Kingsman twist to it, I think, in the sense that, you know, you've got all these spies all dressed in three-piece suits and just shooting everything. It was just crazy and stylish at the same time.
I'm just going to give you a quick Rotten Tomatoes scores of
sure.
three, because I thought it'd be interesting to figure out which one is either the best according to the critics or the audience, and how they saw all of them. So John Wick, the first one, critics had that at 86% and the audience had that at 81%. John Wick Chapter 2, the critics liked that even more at 89%, and the audience went up as well to 85%. So John Wick 2 was better received by critics and the audience. And now John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, again 89% with the critics and 86% with the audience. So if you kind of go by that rationale, then the third one's been better received. And I did a little average count. So on average, the critics have the John Wick series at 88%, and on average, the audience have it at 84%, which is slightly unusual, I think, for this genre of film, for the critics to have more affection for this film than the audience. You feel like this is an audience-driven film made for the fans. You know, you have some films that are made purely for critics, right? It feels like sometimes, and other films that are just made purely for the fans. So it does seem a little surprising, but again, kind of universally loved by critics and audience.
Absolutely. I think there's an element there in terms of like the way that, something like in John Wick 3, it certainly over the John Wick chapters, I shall say, there's different genres that have been brought in. So like in John Wick 3, you had the Middle Eastern element. You had also elements of the Orient as well, in terms of Zero, the assassin as well. And I think in John Wick Chapter 2, again, there's some influences from Eastern Europe as well. And it's like, it's a lot more artistic than you take for granted as normal action film. I mean, the ballet scene in Parabellum was just, I mean, it just brought in both a contrast of light and darkness together, and really good directing, definitely.
And you put some notes together that we'll publish over on the blog of like an overview of all the 3 chapters. I don't know if you wanted to either reel them off verbatim or just kind of give us a thumbnail sketch. But
so taking it in chronological order. So taking chapter 1, it's interesting when we talk about this. We see at the beginning, you know, John Wick dressed in, you know, first of all, a very lovely chocolate brown leather jacket, white t-shirt, navy blue jeans. And at first, something's amiss. You think it looks very well, you know, casually dressed. And obviously, we later learn why he's going to the hospital. And unfortunately, his wife's life support machine is about to be turned off. But his metamorphosis from that, what we would normally call a normal person in the crowd, into there's not a vengeance. Well, there's a bit of a vengeance element to it. There's metamorphosis back into an assassin, and it's interesting to see that, you know, throughout the first film, his suit attire, it's a black. I say black. It's various shades of charcoal, we should say. it to get better look on screen. But it is very much uniform of black, black suits, black shirt, black tie, black waistcoat, and it's done ever so smartly dressed. I mean, this is a person who knows how to dress, who knows what he wants and how it's projected. And in a way, it's kind of funny that that same suit has evolved from when he was at his wife's funeral to kind of show that his kind of that grief, that angst, and and this is his former life that's calling him back into it. And it's kind of, it's interesting when we talk about Bond in terms of like Casino Royale moving from that casual into smart. We see that here, but rather than an evolution, it's a reversion back into a former life that he wish to revisit. So for me, I mean, that uniform is very, it's you see it across the whole three films, and certainly the white shirt, the black tie, again, elements of Men in Black, elements of The Matrix, Agent Smith as well, and certainly there's little bits of teasers to The Matrix, not only because of Lawrence Fishburne's character, but that call back into that area. And I think it does involve, and say for like chapter 1, that was my initial thoughts and views in terms of like there's a dress for that is uniform.
Yeah.
And then certainly for like chapter 2, we don't see him in Rome, and it's like we see a bit of casual. So we see the turtleneck jumper, we see it with a dark charcoal suit, again, that same color blocking, but that evolution, the suit when he visits Taylor and when he goes back into New York, it's just seamless. It really is.
Notice this time around, of course, Luca Mosca, we should say, who was a costume designer for all 3 films, was the actual Taylor in the film, which added another bit of spice.
You're absolutely right. Luca's inclusion into the film kind of, there was that nod saying, yeah, this is a very stylish, this is about suits, this is about tailoring, and it kind of, again, you could take something like when with Kingsman, there was a huge campaign that Mr. Porter did, to kind of emphasize tailoring inside it. So it was kind of like a bit of a nudge and a wink. And, Luca, I mean, he played, I mean, if that's how he is in general, he's a very commendable tailor, definitely.
Well, I've read also that he got compliments on his acting skills. So after this film went into acting classes, and he's now going to be written into the script for the spin-off series for the Continental.
Oh, wow.
Which was in the throes of happening before the world set on fire. So I tried reaching out to Luca because he's on Instagram and he's got a website, and he's quite readily available, but I think he's had a tragedy in the family recently. I think one of his family members had an accident, so he's kind of off the grid for the time being. Talk to me about the kind of bulletproof lining and the tech behind that. So how far are we away from this being a thing?
So actually, it is in reality. There's a company in Toronto that actually does make suits with it's what they call carbon fiber lining. And I'll actually send you the video to it's on. But literally within the lining of the suit, it's a mesh of carbon, and it's actually meant to be twice as strong as steel. It can withstand 9mm, so handgun bullets, not rifle bullets. But they say it comes with no guarantees. It's about $20,000 for the suit, but with no guarantees.
Oh, right. Okay. So if you get shot, you can't come back in the afterlife and get a refund.
So I've actually done some research on this, and there's a demand for this due to businessmen or people who operate in this in areas where there's a high risk of being kidnapped or shot. And certainly wearing a bulletproof vest to a meeting is not always it kind of gives a negative perception. Sure. Whereas wearing, a smart suit, which does have some lining that can withstand it won't penetrate, but it can break bones due to impact and burn. So that's one of the caveats there. But yeah, I was just fascinated. I was just like, you see these things in Kingsman, you see these things in John Wick, and and the tech is out there, and it's so fascinating. And then,
Do you know what? I got to look at this video. I also got to get these guys online, the makers of this, to see if it's actually a thing. So last week I spoke to Carl Barbu about The Dark Knight, and there's, for the Batsuit, mentions of Kevlar and how kind of interwoven mesh linings strengthen upon impact, because the fibers react to the kind of tautness of it. And then you have, I always like the sound of something that goes, and it's 10 times stronger than steel. And you think, fuck it, oh, that must work. But then you think, well, how are you going to do a shoulder roll in that? I mean, I don't I don't imagine this being a thing yet. But you know, I will actually quote what the tailor Lucas says when he's describing this. So his assistant fires a couple of rounds into the suit on the mannequin, and he then takes out the lining and says, tactical lining, silicone carbide discs, ceramic mattresses, accompanied laminate. I mean, these are all kind of ethereal words. Like, it's all a big zero burger in my mind. But I mean, it just sounds cool if you stitch these words together. Pardon the pun. Cutting edge body armor sewn between the fabric and the lining. Zero penetration, but quite painful, I'm afraid.
So. And it's actually based on real tech, so yeah, it is a reality, but it comes at a cost. Who knows? Maybe if the cost comes down, you could get this could be the thing of the future. Hopefully not. I mean, you would want. It says something about living in a place where you've got to wear bulletproof suit.
But would Bond get away with this, do you think, or would it be too far-fetched for Bond?
You know what? I had the same thoughts just as in preparation. Why haven't we seen this in a Bond film? And I think it could actually work. It's not too far-fetched. There is tech which does do this, and I think it's certainly something you've got to consider. I mean, it'd be a good advertisement for Tom Ford. Their lining is bulletproof.
It would be great, but then I just don't know how they'd get away from saying, "Oh well, it's already been done with John Wick." And also, is it too close to Batman? Now he's bulletproof. Do we really want that in a Bond? Or we need him.
True. Yeah.
We need him to be fallible in a way.
Yeah. And you've got about Kingsman as well, because they did show that inside it as well. So yeah. Is it too past the fade? Too past the fad? I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I like it. There's got to be some kind of reality, but got to think about what's happening like 5 minutes in the future. It depends on whether the next film wants to be that kind of elements. I mean, we've seen like perhaps even the Craig films, they're currently off the moment, and like some of the Moore films, the Brosnan films, there's an element of being a little bit in the future, like the remote control car in Tomorrow Never Dies, all the different kind of tech, the invisible car, however much we don't want to say too much about that one, but certainly there's that, and certainly some of the previous Bond films, there's been that 5 minute in the future tech, and I think you're right about in the Craig films, it's of the moment now. So yes, I can understand why not now, but maybe in the future is something to consider.
There's also a thread online that I wrote, I didn't write, but I read about the fit. So if you were to have like an Italian wearing suit that it's form-fitting, the amount of magazines and the amount of holstered guns that you're going to get without having any show or print through the suit, that is also quite a stretch for you to get to, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I did read an article where Luca did say that they had to have, obviously on a film you'd have different jackets, so to enable extra space, but to keep the silhouette. And it's all about keeping that silhouette, and having that. As I said, yeah, you're right. If it's very form fitting, which I can attest to some of the Tom Ford suits I do have, they are. It is even putting a mobile phone inside is a bit.
Yeah, it shows, right? It shows.
It shows. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, so it used to show it, but that's the whole thing about good tailoring. They'll try and hide it as well.
Yeah. Well, moving on to John Wick 3, Parabellum.
Yes.
Some extra notes and thoughts that you shared with me.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of the suiting, it's a continuation of Chapter 2, and certainly it's due to the fact the continuity of the story. It's kind of interesting that John Wick still keeps the same suit. Obviously, if this was in another film, they'd probably have there'd be a suitcase with a whole wardrobe inside it. But certainly it adds a little bit to that reality that this is what he lives in, this is what he wears, and it's seen in so many different climates. So New York, in Morocco, in the desert, in the Sahara. But then obviously when he comes back into New York, he's still wearing the same suit because it still has those same features. And there's an element again of Agent Smith, that Matrix feel to it. It's just for me, I was just getting those vibes. I mean, being a Matrix fan as well, it's not like the shoes on the foot now. It's actually, I mean, going on to talking about cravats. Ian McShane. What can you say about with?
I mean, he just looks the part, and I don't know how much of Ian McShane is the outfits. I mean, if you just put him in like t-shirt and jeans, he'd just look like your regular dude in the pub. But you put a cut crystal tumbler in his hand and a cravat and a suit, and he looks like fucking royalty. I mean, he scrubs like up the best of them, doesn't he?
Oh, immediately I was thinking there's a bit of Hugh Hefney's channeling inside there. He's the smoking jacket, the cravat, and that swagger as well. So yeah, definitely something which was like, he's playing that roguish, that lovable rogue, you could say, because he's on John Wick's side, and at the same time he's got a boss above him, which let's just say he tries and gets away with quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, he's just brilliant, and you can, again, it's that story about identifying allies and villains, because costumes add so much into that. So, like with Zero, his group are these ninjas. They are dressed in that kind of It's not so much Oriental traditional, but also it's a fusion of Western casual with Asian elements inside it, and certainly that's really nice to see that. And also, like, everyone has kind of got their own uniform, like the high table foot soldiers, they've got their own uniform, and I'm jumping back to John Wick 2, but like Ruby Rose's character, like that mute assassin, I mean, she looks phenomenal in that tailored suit. I mean, really, it's just like as I said, it's the dry. I think forget about the Continental's tailor. I think it's the Continental's dry cleaner we should be more worried about.
Yeah. Zed, I was going to play a game with you called Auction Off. This was all up on Prop Store. So again, I'll leave links in the show notes, but I figured you might want to play along with this. So what is worth more out of the John Wick 3 glass house fight suit or the horse chase motorcycle from the same film? You got to think a proper motorcycle versus a collectible fight suit.
Oh, now you've got me here. I'm me being me. I'll go for the suit. I think the motorcycle is good, but I think the suit is just probably more desirable.
You're on the money, man. $14,000 for the suit, and the motorcycle that was the highest selling item on the auction, by the way. And the motorcycle went for $6.25 thousand, so considerably more, even double the motorcycle. Okay, a couple of props for you. So Winstons Tea Set from John Wick 2, or Zero's stunt motorcycle costume from John Wick 3.
I'm gonna have to say Zero, because he was kind of like, I mean, he was very enigmatic, and I think certainly like it's more of a fashion piece. I think his tea set, you'd have to, unless it said property of Winston content, you wouldn't. So I'm going for the sartorial element on this one.
I'm afraid you're wrong on this one. Winston's Tea Set sold for $800, and Zero's stunt motorcycle costume, all of it, by the way, the jacket and everything else, sold for only $375.
Bargain.
So yeah, right. I mean, crikey, if I was around when this was going off. Okay, just a couple more. So John Wick 3, we've got Sophia's fight costume in the Casbah, or the fitting costume seen in John Wick 2. So this is where he's actually, it's kind of half bastard. You've got the lapels showing and stuff like that. So which one do you think went for more?
Well, first of all, one's won by Halle Berry. That adds another element to
that's
the price.
A couple of grands, yeah.
But I think just because it's such an iconic scene, I think I'm going to have to go with the suits. Again, I'm being a one-track mind. I'm going to go for the sartorial suits.
I'm afraid you're wrong again on this one. The Casbah fight costume went for $1,000, and John Wick's fighting costume went for $750. All right, and Zed, we'll probably make this the last one. The audio is just getting a bit choppy. The stunt chisel from John Wick 3. So this is the one where he dismembers his own finger. Or, and I think you'll like this one, Winston's coat, shirt, cravat, pocket square, cufflinks, and gloves from John Wick 3 as he returns to the Continental.
Now, I'm going to go for the prop on this one, even though I think Winston's complete outfit that would be amazing. But I think because of the chisel and the scene it features in, I'm going to go for the prop on this one.
You're on the money. It's $700 for the stunt chisel, and Winston's gear fetched $650, which is just nutty. I mean, that alone you'd buy off the peg for $650, let alone worn by Lovejoy. Anywho,
including cufflinks as well.
Exactly. Anyway, Zed, sorry that the audio's gone a little bit haywire at the end here, but I think we got the gist. Thanks for coming on, mate. Congrats again for having a year on the road with the Instagram account. Keep them coming, and catch you on the next one.
Absolutely. Good speaking to you, and speak to you soon.
Cheers, mate.